Hello and welcome to this pilot episode of my 2024 DungeonCrawler GameJam coverage. Like last year, I want to cover all the basics in this single video so that the videos which follow can focus on the games themselves. A playlist of the full coverage can be found down in the video description and I will update it about once per week. You're of course also welcome to subscribe to the channel to not miss any new video. Down there you will also find a link to all the jam entries. All the games I'm showing here are openly available and free of charge. Alright, so the topics I'm going to cover in this pilot episode are the following. What do the terms Game Jam and Dungeon Crawler actually mean? What is the rule set of this Game Jam in particular? How are the games rated and what role do I play? And lastly, what can you expect in the videos to come? So let's start with a quick overview of what a game jam is. In a game jam, people meet up to create a game within a limited amount of time, following a specific rule set. This can be in the physical world, like a local game jam at a university, but most game jams are done digitally, and so is this one. Meaning you had to register to participate, in this case on itch.io, and then during the limited time frame, which for this jam was 9 days from the 22nd to 31st of March, you could create a game, send it in and possibly win a prize, though not all jams actually offer prizes. Usually game jams also have a theme you have to follow, which is revealed at the start of the jam so that you can't just make the full game beforehand, but we will get into that a bit later. The main restriction in this jam, however, was to create a dungeon crawler. So let me explain what that actually means. A dungeon crawler, by the definition of DungeonCrawlers.org, is a game in the spirit of the Dungeon Master or the old wizardry games. Key aspects are that you control one or more characters from a first-person perspective, while your movement is strictly limited to a chessboard-like grid. Meaning any movement will always be for a full tile or square forward, but you can't just stop in between two tiles. Similarly, you can only move into cardinal directions, but not diagonally. This also means that Wizardry 8 does actually not qualify as a dungeon crawler, as in there you can move around freely. A dungeon crawler, however, despite having dungeon in its name, does not need to actually be set in a dungeon. Like the modern dungeon crawler Star Crawlers, it could also be set in a spaceship or anywhere else. In addition, the game also requires some very basic RPG systems, some form of hit points, the chance to die, some combat mechanics or a substitute. A pure adventure game would not qualify. And with that, you basically already know the biggest chunk of the rules of this game jam, as it is all about creating a dungeon crawler. Regarding the content of the game, you would also need to include at least one of the 4 themes which were revealed at the start of the jam: Infinity, Ancient Ruins, Solitude, or Cosmic Horror.
Final one is Cosmic Horror.
Most of the other rules are concerning the creation of the game. In that regard, this particular jam is actually quite lenient, as developers could use general libraries, assets and code from previous projects as long as the game itself is done during the jam. There are no strict controls, which would also be impossible, and it's mostly down to the honor system. However, games which obviously break this rule are also disqualified. Developers can also utilize AI for the game as long as no copyrights are violated. There are no restrictions to team sizes either, but for short games, a bigger team doesn't necessarily mean that more stuff is getting done, as there is a high diminishing returns. Teams with more than 2 developers in the core team are actually rather rare. The prizes would also need to be shared among the whole team. These prizes include an exclusive glass plaque for the winner, t-shirts for the top 3 entries, cash prizes like $100 for the winner, and there are several keys to win, like for Grid Cartographer, The Quest, Vaporum, Legends of Amberland and Black Dawn. And at that point, I will briefly mention how the voting works. Generally, voting is split between a community vote and a vote by the judge. For the community voting, every team member who is registered as such and whose team sent in a game can vote. Meaning that in a team of 10 people, in theory all of them can vote. But they can't vote for their own game. While in 2023 there were multiple categories to vote in, this has been simplified to just one rating for the overall fun of the game. That way the overall rating will not get ruined by an aspect which is not really relevant for that particular game, and it also avoids that a good or bad rating in one category can bleed over into other categories. This community vote will then determine the overall outcome and the top places. But as mentioned, there is also a vote by the judge. For 2024, this was simplified as well, as there is no panel of judges anymore, but only the organizer of the jam himself, Kordanor. He will pick out games which stand out in certain areas, like an extremely good movement system or a great narrative, which will then get honorable mentions and bonus prizes. And this also means that this year I have not been part of the judge panel. And as I also have not been developing a game myself, my opinions I will share in the videos will not have any impact on the outcome. Lastly, what can you expect in the upcoming videos? Lots of great games, of course. However, this time I will probably not play all of the 169 games which were sent in this year. Instead, this year I will focus on the top rated ones, plus ones which look and sound interesting to me, and also some games where there is an interest of the developers to do so. So maybe there will be around 30 videos, maybe there will be more. If you'd like me to play your game, please leave a comment below. At the time of the recording of this intro, the community vote is not finished yet, but I will just start with games which look interesting to me. My goal is to give each game a fair chance and also try to finish it. But the total length I'm going to spend on each game also depends on the game itself. If I get the impression that after 30 minutes that I've seen everything already, I might also stop at that point already. Keep in mind that one of the themes is also endless, and I doubt you want to see me completing the same level 5 times in a row, for example. So while I will try to do full playthroughs of each game, I can't guarantee it. But I hope to give each game a fair chance, and I also hope to be able to give you a good impression of it. As I'm not a judge this time, I might also play versions of the games which were updated after the rating period, but in that case I will mention it at the start of each video. On my main channels, Kordanor's Gaming Lair and its German equivalent, Kordanor's Reviews, I will likely also do a quick summary to highlight my favorite and the best rated games at some point, so check out one of these channels if you're interested. In a few seconds you will also see some links popping up for last year's highlights. That also completes our overview, and we can finally dive into the entries. Feel free to subscribe to the channel to not miss any new videos or check the playlist in the video description. Thank you for your interest, and if you sent in a game yourself, then also thanks a lot for participating in this game jam. And now let's have a look at the first game of the Dungeoncrawler GameJam 2024.